The Celtics just cemented themselves as the winningest franchise in NBA history, winning their 18th title all time. What makes this one so special is their complete and utter dominance in the NBA playoffs. They had a whooping 16-3 playoff record to show their complete dominance throughout the NBA season. But how did they do it? It all started back in 2013 when the Celtics traded their faces of the franchise. At the time, the Celtics had come off a couple of great playoff runs, winning a title in 2008 to cement themselves as legends, making the trade that much bitter for Boston fans. The trade saw Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce move to the Nets, but the return was so much sweeter. Using one of their picks from the Nets, the Boston Celtics drafted Jaylen Brown out of UC Berkeley in the 2016 draft, starting their journey of becoming NBA champions. At the time he was drafted though, people were saying that he shouldn't play in the NBA. One scout even saying that Jaylen Brown was too smart to play. What does that even mean? Anyways, that's not to say that he didn't struggle. During the 2016-2017 season, Jaylen Brown only started 20 games for the Celtics, averaging a measly 6 points, shooting 45% from the field and 34% from 3. His role in the team was small, as he only averaged 5.4 shots taken per game. He was looking like a bust, and in an era that was dominated by LeBron and Steph Curry. It looked like there was no hope for the Boston Celtics. However, in 2017, things were on the come up for the Boston Celtics. The Celtics found themselves in another fortunate trade. With the number 1 pick, the Celtics had the choice to draft Markelle Fultz, but there was just one problem. The Celtics had a huge number of guards on their team, in Avery Bradley and Marcus Smart, so they decided to trade down to get a future first. With the 3rd pick, the Celtics picked Jason Tatum, their second face of the franchise. In the offseason of 2017, the Celtics continued to make moves, getting Kyrie Irving through a trade and signing Gordon Hayward. Many had the Celtics to be contenders in the East. They made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, until they fell up short to LeBron and company once more. That's not to say though that this loss provided valuable experience for both Tatum and Brown, who would continue to battle to make the playoffs. Plus, Tatum had solidified himself as a star after dunking on LeBron. With Tatum and Brown forming a dynamic young duo, the Celtics had high hopes, but things didn't go quite as planned. In 2018 to 2019, the Celtics had finished 4th in the East, solidifying themselves in the playoffs. Tatum and Brown both had solid seasons, but the star player at the time was Kyrie Irving. Tatum and Brown were both in the shadow of Kyrie, and unfortunately didn't have the star role that both of them deserved. Tatum and Brown struggled to find their role on the team, leading them to being eliminated by the Bucks in 5 games. That year, Kyrie Irving requested a trade from the Celtics in the offseason, leaving the team for Tatum and Brown to become the new faces of the Boston Celtics. However, despite their new roles, 2019 to 2020 brought new challenges for everyone. There was a pandemic that forced the NBA playoffs to be played in the bubble, an environment that not a lot of players were used to. As a result, the Celtics were bounced by the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. Once again, Tatum and Brown had made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but still came up short. Despite these setbacks, Tatum and Brown showed that they could be stars for their team. In 2020, Tatum was selected to his first All-Star game, solidifying himself as one of the game's best. In 2020, Tatum averaged 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists, while shooting an efficient 45% from the field and 40% from 3. Meanwhile, Jaylen Brown was one of the come-up as well, averaging 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists, while shooting 48% from the field and 38% from 3. Tatum and Brown proved that they could be in their own role. The following year, the Celtics continued to grind. 2020 to 2021, we saw Tatum and Brown made an even bigger leap, but still, their roster wasn't good enough. Despite the star pair being one of the top duos in the NBA, Tatum and Brown didn't have the supporting cast around them, finishing 7th in the Eastern Conference. That year, the Celtics were eliminated in the first round by Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets. Understanding that their roster needed to be revamped, the Celtics front office decided to make a couple of savvy moves to improve defensively and get bigger. The Celtics began by bringing in Al Horford, a proven all-star that was in a back half of his career. However, despite his age, he was still a solid shooter and a very solid defender who brought the size that Boston needed. Furthermore, many of Boston's continued to improve. During the 2022 season, Boston saw the resurgence of guard Marcus Smart, who was later named the Defensive Player of the Year. Furthermore, players like Robert Williams, who had been in the Celtics system for a while, proved that they could be good paint protectors. To get even better, the Celtics brought in Derek White from the San Antonio Spurs, creating a guard tandem that could lock up practically any defensive superstar. With a dominant defensive starting five, the Celtics appeared dangerous and ready to go after anyone who stood in their way. There was just one problem.
The elite defender off the bench. Curry steps back, three-pointer, got it! Curry, another long-distance shot. It's good! Curry gets free. Gets some contact, layup, got it, and one! Steph Curry felt the bump. Post up Tatum. Curry launches a three. It's good. The boards. Curry. It's good. Steph Curry from downtown.
Maybe some second shots.
Curry again. Oh, Steph Curry from way downtown. Back to Curry. Step back. Three-pointer. Bang!
Despite being dominant defensively, the Celtics had to go against one of the greatest players in today's game, Steph Curry. Boston came up short and had to regroup. The following season, Tatum and Brown both matured into all-star caliber players, improving their efficiency and their impact on the team. However, they continued to come up short. In 2023, the Celtics were bounced in the Eastern Conference Finals by the Miami Heat. Playoff Jimmy once again took over the Celtics, leading to their demise. The following season, the Celtics front office made some changes to the roster, hoping to turn their team into a dynasty. These moves included moving on from Marcus Smart and Grant Williams and turning their attention on former All-Stars like Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. At the time, many of these moves were criticized by reporters and fans who believed that Boston could never win a title with Tatum and Brown. But boy, were these critics wrong. For starters, the Celtics were so dominant that many people claimed that the East was a joke. The Celtics led the East and were 14 games ahead of the New York Knicks. Many critics stated that the East had become less talented, but they failed to realize that the East was just dominated by one team, the Celtics. This theory was proven in the NBA playoffs, where the Celtics had a whooping 16-3 record on the road to a championship. They destroyed the Miami Heat and then pummeled the Cleveland Cavaliers. Afterwards, they moved on to the Pacers, where they cruised past them to get to the NBA Finals, where they would face their toughest opponent, the Dallas Mavericks. At that time, many people picked Dallas to destroy the Celtics. Critics argued that the Celtics didn't actually play a good enough playoff team. They played an injured Miami Heat with no Jimmy Butler, and an injured Cleveland with no Spida. This would be the first time they played a playoff team that was fully healthy and could score. The Celtics dominated the Dallas Mavericks. They instantly went out in a 3-0 lead over the Mavericks. And while the Mavs took Game 4 by a considerable margin, the Celtics went on to win Game 5 in front of their home fans, making it their first title since 2008. The Celtics are the next big dynasty in the NBA. Before you go to the comments and start spamming it with hate, let me say my piece. They've proven time and again that they can get to the Eastern Conference Finals on a consistent basis with Tatum and Brown, and they've proven that they can not only get to the finals, but they can win it too. Furthermore, their dominance in the past playoffs shows just how much of an imbalance there is between the Celtics and the rest of the East. I don't see any team that can actually keep up with the Celtics in the East, making their path to the finals an easy one. Tatum and Brown are also still relatively young. Tatum is only 26 and Jaylen Brown is 27. These two young stars are just entering their primes with so much playoff experience and a good team around them. I see them winning at least 2 more titles in their future, barring any injuries and setbacks. Now it's your turn to debate me. If you think I'm wrong, tell me why. I'm interested to know what your thoughts are on these two superstars. I hope you enjoyed watching. As always, feel free to subscribe if you want to learn more about the history of basketball.